Hello folks, my name is Mark and this is Mark's Movie Reviews. How you guys doing? And today we are reviewing X-Men Apocalypse. So if you haven't seen it yet, there's going to be some spoilers. So this, I would say, is a good way to describe this movie is a jumbled hot mess. That is to say, it looks really good and has some good action sequences, but there's not much of substance on the inside. And the more you think about it, the harder it is to make very much sense out of it, right? Which is not to say it's a bad movie, and it's certainly not the worst X-Men movie. I mean, I would say that goes to Wolverine Origins, in my opinion, but it's definitely like leaves a lot to be desired, and it's definitely the weakest of the last, the second trilogy when it comes to First Class and Days of Future Past. This one is a distant third. We'll start off with some good things. The performances from our actors are definitely very, very good. I like, I think his name's, I can't remember the actor's name, but the guy who plays Magneto probably gives the best performance in this movie. There's a couple of very emotional scenes where his family dies and he goes to this foundry where he works and he's gonna enact revenge on and stuff like that. And he actually gets to show some range and stuff. Professor X seems to be more on the verge of crying in every scene. Like when you see him, he's just always I don't know. There just seems to be a lot of scenes where Professor X is just so his mind has been blown so hard that he's about to burst into tears. It seems to be everywhere. Besides that, Apocalypse it's the same actor who plays Apocalypse as the guy who plays Poe Dameron in the latest Star Wars movie. And I think he's wasted on the role, to be honest. He just really doesn't get to do very much beyond the usual, mega maniacal sort of villain type, we'll build a better world kind of thing. And although I think the character of Apocalypse was done rather well. I know a lot of people were upset by the way he looked and things like that. And I think he looked fine, because to be honest, I don't really like the look of comic book Apocalypse, in the comics, Apocalypse has this weird line that goes down through his lips and shit that makes him look like a clown, with duck lips, So they didn't do that here. But still they kind of made him a little too lavender, and he looks kind of Power Ranger-ish, But I don't know, I think he was alright. I mean, the problem with Apocalypse in this movie is that they overpower him in the beginning to make him look bad, to make him look evil and crazy and strong. So they have him just build this pyramid using telekinesis, and it's he tears up the entire city and then of Cairo and builds this huge pyramid, and then he's decapitating people with there's this part where they're in this alley, him and Storm are in this alley, and then these thugs are gonna kill them, and he just blinks his eye, and then sand comes up and just decapitates everybody and shit, and you're like, whoa, this dude's mean. But then at the end, all that shit goes away, and it's he's fighting the X-Men, and obviously he's not going to kill the X-Men, right? But it's they made him too strong to begin with, and then they had to nerf him in the final battle, and that was kind of what? So unfortunately, nobody else really gets to show very much in this movie, beyond Quicksilver, which of course has another scene which is admittedly pretty awesome, where he saves all the, he has another slow motion, fast speed scene where he saves all these people from the X-Mansion that's getting blown up. But that brings us to another problem with this movie, is that they kind of go into Marvel action figure overload here. They're just using characters, that have no relevance to the plot, just so they can use them. And I mean, X3 had this problem too, where they're just for example, the Four Horsemen in this movie, because Apocalypse is supposed to have Four Horsemen, and who they are, they're Storm and Angel and Psylocke and Magneto, right? Well, Magneto, of course, is central to the plot, and I could see why they used him, right? But Storm and Angel and fucking Psylocke don't do anything, they don't really get any character development. Fucking Psylocke has one line in the whole thing. Angel is supposed to be a good guy. He doesn't get any lines either. He just does a cage match where he fights, Nightcrawler, and then that's supposed to make him bad, you know, and like, and Psylocke is like, you know, doesn't has like no dialogue, you know, she's in the fight at the end, and then at the end of the movie she's running away, like peering over her shoulder like she's gonna get, you know, revenge or something. It's like, well, this doesn't make me feel anything because she didn't say anything, she didn't do anything the whole goddamn movie. She was just there, and the thing is, they could have used any characters, and it would have been exactly the same, and that's how you know they're like being underutilized, you know. And it's not just them. I mean, it's fucking, you know, Jubilee is in the movie. She's tragically underutilized. You know, like, fucking, it's just really like, damn, like, and you know, the thing is that when you see other movies that do it better, you know that it doesn't have to be like that. You know, if they just would have took some more time and like developed the characters, you know, for example, you know, Captain America Civil War has 16 characters, right? But everybody in that movie gets at least one scene where they're moved along. So no one is just thrown in there for no reason, you know. They didn't just like, you know, oh, we have the rights to this dude, throw him in there, and then just have him in the background and shit. You know, and no, they didn't do that there. I mean, but that's what this movie, it ends up feeling empty because it's like, who's this guy? Well, what the fuck is he doing? Oh, well, he's gone. You know, I mean, even like Wolverine in this movie shows up for like 5 minutes, right? And it's like this detour that they do in the plot. Like, you know, the plot's moving along, and then suddenly they take this detour to go out to the Weapon X facility just so they can throw Wolverine in there. And it's like, well, fucking, you know, and the thing is, you know why it feels like it's tacked on, because you can remove the entire thing and it doesn't change the outcome of the movie. It doesn't change the flow of the movie. You know what I mean? It's just like some shit that they threw in there just because they can, because they had to check a box that said, you know, now we need Wolverine in it because it's an X-Men movie. So for you people out there who care about things like continuity, they're going to hate this movie. Just throw all that shit right out the window, because there's no more continuity left in the X-Men movie at all. It just doesn't make any sense in relation to the other movies. You know what I mean? Like, I know that they rebooted it with, you know, Days of Future Past, but even still, even this one doesn't fit in with that one. You know, for example, at the end of Days of Future Past, Wolverine is like, you know, in the bottom of the river with like, you know, rebarb and shit sticking through him, and Psyker comes in, like, picks him up. But then there's a scene that, you know, where it's not really Psyker, it's really Mystique disguised as Psyker, taking him to the X, you know, the X facility, right? So it's like, well, fucking, then, you know, so you think that she's rescuing him, right? That, and he's not going to go to the Weapon X facility. But then they cut to this one, and he's in the fucking Weapon X thing, you know? So what did she do? Did she just, like, drag him there, like her friend that saved everybody, and just, like, turn him into the, you know, government and shit? Like, what? Like, how does it? It's like he forgot that he did that, you know? Like, it's like they forgot that they had that plot line in the last movie, you know? So that's fucking retarded. You know, other characters are like, fucking, you know, so this is supposed to be 1983, right? And so you have Scott Summers as like a 16-year-old kid, or maybe he's like 15 or something. He's old enough to drive, at least, right? So, but that means that, you know, in Days of Future Past, that one took place in 2023. So does that mean that in Days of Future Past, he's like 50? You know, like, how old is he supposed to be? You know, does that mean that Magneto is fucking like 110 in Days of Future Past? I mean, he'd have to be in order to be if he was 12 in World War II, you know, he'd have to be like fucking 100 years old. Like, it's like, that shit doesn't make sense either. Like, it just seems like they're just throwing people in there, just fuck it, just make them whatever age they want. They do the same thing with Quicksilver. Like, in the other movie, it's 1974, and he's living in his mom's basement or whatever. So this one is like 10 years later, and he's still living in his mom's basement, you know? And it's like, what? Like, so in 10 years, this motherfucker just hasn't done anything? Like, I don't know. That just seems kind of ridiculous. Like, there's just no continuity. I mean, there never really was any continuity between the other movies either. You know, if you care about continuity making sense, like, you're gonna hate this shit, because it just doesn't make sense at all. You can't, like, reconcile any of it. One last thing before we call it a day here. The fights in this movie are substandard. And what I mean by that is that, you know, so when you see a movie like Civil War, right, and the end fight at the end of Civil War, where like all the heroes are like shooting at each other and jumping around, and Giant Man is doing things, it just kind of like blows you away. Like, it's choreographed like pretty awesome, and there's like, you know, everybody's using their powers and stuff, and there's like dialogue going on and all that. The fight in this one it seems like something that was that was made in the 90s. You know what I mean? Like there's like guy, you know, like Beast is jumping around like he's got like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon strings on him and shit. And they're just all it is them shooting rays at each other, and you know, and it just seems like it's very lackluster. And it's not to say that it's bad. It's just sort of like, you know, when you get other movies like the other Marvel movies that are raising the bar so much higher, you got to meet that bar. And it's like this one looks like something that was filmed in like 2001. It's like, sorry guys, I'm just not feeling it, you know. You need more than like invisible wires and, you know, Maya particle effects and shit to like capture people nowadays. So, you know, I would say that, I mean, it's not the worst X-Men movie, you know, but it's definitely a step backwards, and it's a little disappointing, you know, to see like this series just can't seem to get its shit together, you know. And this is not to say that I didn't like the movie. I mean, it was enjoyable and I had a good time watching it, and I'll probably get it on, you know, Blu-ray or whatever when it comes out and all that. And you know, if they make another X-Men movie, I'll probably go see that too. I'm just saying, it's just like it could just be so much better, you know. It could be a lot better, and I really hope that, you know, I really hope that Fox kind of like ups their game a bit, takes a little bit more time to like write these scripts out, you know, and just thinks through it better the next time they make a movie. It's like, you know, that's the thing, is that it's a superhero movie, so who cares? And that's what they're thinking. That's what the top level dudes at Fox are going. It's like, fuck it, it's just guys in spandex throwing shit around and blah blah blah. Who cares? You know, just make it. It'll make tons of money. Well, you know, if you actually take the time to craft something that you're proud of, that it'll have staying power and more people will go see it. And that's why, you know, you don't want to just cash in just because you can, you know. And I think that's what it feels like when you watch this movie. It feels like they're just, you know, just throw this guy in there, it'll make more money, and throw that in there, and that'll make, you know, whatever, and get this dude to play, you know, and just, it'll make tons of cash. Who gives a shit? Just film it. You got 2 weeks. That's what it looks like when you're watching this. And it's like, dude, it takes, you know, be proud of what you make. So, anyway, adios, folks.